We have noted the commitment of the government and donors in trying to build the national evaluation capacity. It's very good. But our concern is that the majority of people are being left behind in this development because it's being done at a higher level. It's involving academic institutions and very high government agencies, but not on the lower level where the majority of people are.
Tamwakwata mumushi awasambira kusambirira efya kuchitefi tamwakwata aba kuti bachecking amalisti.
You may be aware that 60% of Zambians are poor, especially in rural areas. They can't afford the bundles or a cell phone to use internet, and that is a challenge. In Zambia, the official language is English, but most of the people don't read or write in English. But we have mostly literature which is in English. We have national development policies, we have plans and programs which are written mostly in English. So the majority of ordinary people are left behind. It's time we try to translate the materials that we have, the jargons that we speak in M&D, into ordinary Zambian languages, so that at least a lot of people could have access to those materials and able to at least use them to evaluate on a daily basis in their own daily life, or the public sector, the performance of the leaders. So it's time we thought of ordinary people and letting them have access to materials, to tools that they can use. Community-based organizations, the churches, the community groups that are working to change the development of the community should be able to teach ordinary people or empower ordinary people to be able to evaluate the performance of the leaders, the elected leaders. We have instances where maybe a leader will come and campaign in an area. For a few months they will be seen around, attending funerals, being helpful, buying materials for women, donating sewing machines, grinding machines to women groups. That's before the elections. When those people are elected into office, whether a councillor at the local governance level or a member of parliament at the national governance level, they will disappear. For 5 years they are not seen. Then after 5 years they will come back to the community. Take one number. Kwali ba makansela na ba member of parliament na ba mayor. Apa tuleo koneka apa twachimone office pa police ya constituency office ekweba tu MP baba mumushi MP bali kumalusaka
nomba yaba feri office
balesa kukuno kai na bakwate office tamubamona bati office lyabo
ya mali bano nombo mfimu yabo wabuteko nomba tatubamona
tamubamona MP for this area.
Yes.
Is the MP for
Katuba.
How many times has he come this year? Has he come and held meetings?
No, I would say from the time we elected him, he has never returned here, or he has never reported
to the people.
Hold a meeting with the people that elected him. But otherwise, to other places, yes, he does go there.
Okay.
But here he hasn't.
He has.
Yes.
So you have no problems?
No, we have got problems now. The issue at hand is that he was supposed to come and report after being elected.
Yes.
Because by electing him, it means there were some challenges that the seat, yes. So by doing so, he was supposed to report back
To the people.
to say what you did. I'm very much impressed.
Yeah.
But he hasn't come to report.
Yeah.
We just see him when we go this side, when we meet him that side. Yes, but we can say he hasn't. Yes, maybe I don't know. Maybe because if he's busy, after that busy is gone. You should report to say, in fact, I was busy by the duties of the government, and the duties are this and this, but he hasn't.
Uli kansela kamba nti musanka mu parliament manje muwaona nga wabwera entawe y'obasa bakuuma wabwera after mawasanka wabwera okamba nabantu nuzani bamene
bafika chabe kutauni kuchongo kumbali ya kuno timango mbele ya pamalizi kuti minista mwaka rombe banali na musonga ndi kwa market kwa kumbali ya kuno kwa tuansi bafika.
So last time we mnena
2016 before my election je pale wanabwera pa Chainda primary kutoka Jandawe kuno kwa area
manje uno mfulo wa government ili na ma connections ya ma MP na wa council wamubwera kwa how is the community interacting na wa council
abantu kasebenze kao kama vuta so mwamene tienda kuma election bazapo oneka manyingi kuoneka kwao manje tunaona che mu maliro ukabwera mani kukatika maliro baoneka kutandiza batandiza manje kuti babwere manje batiteko ma meeting yaja kuti abantu ndi amene banatuika pampanda banakalira kwa amene balipo this time ulibe ma meeting yolo one bali konse badanda
so bazabwera next year na bitenge sima lazima mwavote oh okay
mama necha vipa kumula duwa kansa fya chali ine kuti mwewo ni mwende kwa abana botale kwa mwewo ngani kuno kumishi mubenselesha bipa mukulekana kwa mapachi jaya mubenselesha bipa nobulo simula bamo
no at least simulele ukishati twali ni vote nishita mushila kuwelera kumushima mwaisa ekala na abantu kuno wala icheni sepera silefwaya insto umusebo ubitana mukesebo mbela
balebe balimba kabibonda kayati ni bakirenka nomba to anaka nabo bakirenka mamona namulanda fye bwino ijo baba bakirenka nga baisa no tufitenge nembuchi na cyane twawira kuyakuyi
okay
bati tulele nge cyalo cyesu ubukana yo byanta kamona mfene kitenge.
If community-based organizations, the professional organization, even government could empower communities to evaluate or monitor the performance of the leaders, I think there would be change in most of these communities, because we have seen communities, townships that have received no development, but they have representatives in parliament, in town councils, but they are forgotten. Garbage is not collected, roads are not maintained. There was, at one time, when we were electing the mayor of Lusaka, a demand by people that the mayor should sign a social contract with the people. That never happened, but it should happen to everybody. Every leader should sign a social contract with the people. with the constituents that they represent. It should be a demand on all. And we should be able as a people to evaluate the performance of our leaders, maybe on a quarterly basis. The councillor, the MP, and the president. The president right now is demanding for quarterly reports from the leaders of clusters on the implementation of the 7th National Development Plan. But there is no independent body that demands the same from the president, the MPs, and the councillors. And the people themselves should be able to demand the same from them. Our umbrella body, Zambia of evaluators, hasn't got reviewers that reviews the implementation of the 7th National Development Plan. But we should have independent bodies that are reviewing the performance of government, the implementation of policies at all levels. And we can only, as an evaluation community, help if we have to go down to the person in the street, the ordinary person in the village, and empower them to be able to exercise their rights on public governance. As indigenous evaluators, we understand that we have to get the best methods around the world, but also use our own local knowledge. We have to start thinking of our own local knowledge, our own governance systems that can help us get out of the challenges that we are now facing. Because no nation can develop relying on copying every time from others. We have to rely on our own solutions. It means that we have to go back to our indigenous knowledges on assessing, evaluating performance, for instance, of our governance people. In the old tradition, chiefs used to be assessed by their own people. There was a participatory kind of system where people may be called together in what was called Dinsaka. And people would go together and sit at the palace and discuss it. And then the chief would hear the views of the people. That used to be done occasionally. But on a regular basis, he had a system of collecting data from the common people, the villagers, by sending the dance groups, the court jesters, the poets and others into the village to collect information, to hear the opinion of the people. Then they would come to the palace and perform. Through the drama, through the songs, through the dances, a chief would be made aware of what the people are thinking of. This is not now happening. What is happening now is, if you don't agree with the leader, or you say, no, this is not very good performance, a leader will claim that you are working for the opposition. You belong to an opposition party, you are being used by foreign forces, or you are his enemy, you are taking it personal and all that. But we are aware that development needs opposing forces. If there are no opposing forces, then there will be no development. And this is what is happening to us. We are stagnating in a lot of fields because we are scared. We are scared to criticize. And what happens even among the professional evaluators, they write reports which at the end of the day, you don't know where they stand because they're trying to be politically correct or not hurt anyone or not hurt the chances of them getting another commission. So you find they go around, beating around the bushes and not coming out. So this is happening, and no country can move. Zambia has to move forward and start thinking its own history, how it can use it, how it can use indigenous knowledge. We have for a long time been depending on knowledge from foreign countries. But we should learn from the past. We have, as a country, been relying on copying things from mainly the Western world. We have burnt ourselves in the past. Take, for example, what happened during the time of Kaunda as our president.
I would have loved that he could have been known more as Buchiza and not as Kenneth or David. But he tried to get back to his indigenous roots by giving African names to his children, as you can see. Yeah.
Our technocrats, with the advice of external consultants, made the Zambian kwacha be tied to the pound sterling of UK. And when there was a financial crisis, what happened? Zambia was in trouble because the foreign reserves got wiped out. And that was the start of our economic problems. And before that, we had a very powerful Zambian kwacha, which was almost at par with the dollar. But after the foreign reserves were wiped out, we started facing problems, and you all know what happened. Food became very expensive. People started rioting. We had to call in external consultants. We had to get expensive loans, and there were conditionalities. We had to auction our Zambian kwacha, the green kwacha scheme. And what happened? Imported items became very expensive, and Zambia relies on imported items. And people started rioting. They didn't want Kaunda anymore, and he was forced out. People didn't elect him. 1991, we had a change of government. But that came because we were listening to advice that wasn't very good for our country.
I believe the main lesson we have to learn from his generation and that of the peers is that they were not selfish. They fought for the whole nation. They didn't fight for themselves. And that patriotism is what is missing currently. We have a lot of graduates. At that time when they got independence, they didn't have a lot of graduates. And they made it possible. They built the University of Zambia. They built a lot of structures, the hospitals, and what we had. And for some of us who have benefited, we benefited greatly because we had free education. Right now it's very difficult to educate children because standards in government schools are not as high as we had in those days. Now you have to go to private schools, and the teachers, even the standards of teaching has gone down. There is a spirit that is missing in Zambia right now. That of giving yourself to your best level. All we think about is what is in it for me. And that can't carry us anywhere. The challenge now is for the young generation. You've seen that our forefathers gave us the independence, the political independence. We're not yet there. Economically, we are not there yet. We've got our technocrats, but they failed Kaunda. Because what happens? The parastatals they were leading, they were being sent to UK to train and do all sorts of courses in order to manage the economy, but they failed Kaunda. It's not Kaunda who failed, but technocrats. These are the people we are calling rich people now, and they can't account for how they got the money. That spirit was missing. The dream was there that we could get somewhere, but we have failed. It's now up to you, the young people, to pick up from where they left. These things we talk about, African unity, they started it, but we are all divided now. You can't live in a foreign country, but it's an African country, they'll chase you away. That you're not South African. That spirit was not there. Because right now we are having some of the economic challenges because they sacrificed. They sacrificed for Southern Africa to be free, but we don't get that recognition. That is due to KK.
1991, there was an influx of external consultants, seemingly to come and help Zambia move from its socialist system to a capitalist system. And what happened? We changed almost all the major sectors. We changed the drivers. And let's take the example of the financial system. We changed the indirect tax system from sales tax to value-added tax. Years later, almost a decade later, we were saying, no, the sales tax system was very good. Let's go back to the sales tax system. But all these foreign ideas which we get, the foreign consultants come, made us change the direct taxes system from manual to computerized, and we had automated systems which were very expensive. Costs millions in consultants' fees and design fees. But what has happened? The indirect system, VAT-Link, was abandoned to integrated automated system. The integrated tax system was abandoned. The tax online was brought into operation. The same thing for the customs department. The customs department brought in a system that they said will work. So we have Ascuda. Ascuda worldwide hasn't been effectively used, and now there is talk of abandoning it. There was the centralized automated registry system. It's also facing problems, and people are saying, no, we have to abandon it. And the people who brought in the ideas of changing the systems and getting these external consultants in and all that, they are laughing when they go to the bank. And what is happening? It's a Zambian who is losing. It's taxpayers' money. We paid around $15 million for Ascuda, but now we are talking of abandoning it, bringing in a new system. Don't we have Zambian experts? Our local challenges need local experts. Why are people going into universities? Why are people having all these doctorates? And now we have professors at Bank of Zambia in the ministries and all that. Dr. Who, what heading this and that agency, but still not finding the solutions. From 1 kwacha per US dollar is now at 22 kwacha to a US dollar. So where are our local experts? All these certificates that we get, how do we show people that we've got now qualified manpower? So it's time we went back or looked at the examples of our friends. Why are they succeeding when we're failing? What has made China tick? As we spend a lot of time politicking, trying all to get it 2+1, but who will be a follower? So we need to get back to our indigenous knowledge. We need to get back to the system that we used. We are leaving a lot of people behind by not including them. Having systems that will involve people who are at low level. We have to start thinking of our own local knowledge, our own governance system that can help us get out of the challenges that we are now facing. Because no nation can develop relying on copying every time from others. We have to rely on our own solutions. And it means that we have to go back to our indigenous knowledges, assessing or evaluating performance, for instance, of our governance people. China has relied on 5,000 years of its civilization, its knowledge, traditional knowledge to develop. And that's why it has made major strides in almost all the sectors of its national development. And that is what is worrying to us indigenous evaluators. For an indigenous evaluator, maybe to get information, maybe to a ministry or government agency and ask for information, it will not be made available. There will be excuses. When a colleague working for a donor agency goes there and asks for the same information, it will be given to him. So we are having challenges at national level, even at village level. Now, the common villager is not able to get into the palace because they've set up all these committees, all these indunas groups that have to scrutinize every villager and the request for an appointment with a chief. Now, our system of easy access to the chief is no longer there. The door is not usually open. Why? Because now investors have come in, and now if you can't put any money in that envelope, you'll not be able to see the chief. There is now land being sold. A lot of chiefs have become very rich. A lot of people connected to royal establishments are now middlemen. And out of that, they've made commissions, they've made money, they're driving nice cars, they have built nice houses on land that is supposed to be held for the war clan, for the war tribe. But now it has become like private property for the chief and his relatives.
Monga vantu valinayo danga yoenda mukukamba direct na vachifu mkwano kusoli since muli na vachifu mukamba ta chief tell wa chief fan wa chief tell ndiye kuti kuli kuja ku palace kuli vachifu vantu niko seguka niko masuka kuti muntu wamene ali na vuto kapena tikakamba kuti muntu ali na vuto na imwe vanduna aziwa kuti sanga kambe na imwe afuna kuenda mkuuza monga kuli vachifu abauze direct kuti ine vachifu vanduna vakwatu problem yamene tiona ni nai ndiye kuti niko masuka na kweve kuli vachifu tenesi kuyenda abantu kwenda mkufunza kapena kukamba kudandao
kuja kuntu niko masuka ko pang'ono kumbuyo oku kunaliko masuka nikapeza vuto ine pano nikuenda ukatandauka kuli vachifu manje mukusinta kwa zintu vanabwera vanaikako komiti nangu yakuti ati osati vazibwera straight kuli vachifu koma first vankhala na dandauko kukaonana na komiti iyo so iyo komiti ni amene pereka kuli vachifu manje so pamapezeka kuvuto futi napo apo nthawi zinangu iwe ngati wapereka kuja dandauko waja bantu manje bayamba kuona pamaso maona ka so zapeza kuti ija dandauko yako nthawi zina usifika kuli vachifu maja bamene futi bayamba kutabwani kuyidyakirira so iwe manje nowhere to go mayona so ngati palibwino ndikupeza kuti yaenda afika
mukakamba ti palibwino mutandauza chani ubwino wa bwanji ndiye kuti ija komiti ili kuli vachifu vamayangana pa financial status how do you put it in local language vayangana pa vandalama ulo vayangana pa nikambe kuti okay kuli ma stages kuli venangu ati avaniwolemera avaniwochita bwanji so nishinayo yamene komiti ili kuli vachifu ndiye mwamene yanganira
so hapo vimasankana pamene hivyo vose vimaseveza ndavani kabisa maiwonaka kaendedwe na kankhaniyo yamene wapereka kuja yamene ufuna kuti utandisiwe
Okay, hapa nilangizeni huku ni kwa chifu Buta. Okay, so vimachitika omuganiza chabati mbamele mfundi kochi
vimachitika bali bantu vimachitika.
We need the same commitment to be shown towards preserving and developing indigenous evaluation methodologies. EVAL Indigenous stands for supporting the use and preservation of indigenous methodologies. And
the government has to try and see how they can involve most people in the development of evaluation and monitoring. And it has to come down to involving community-based organizations. The churches should be able to teach ordinary people so that nobody is left behind in monitoring and evaluating, say for example, policies, public policy, or the performance of the agents that people elect into offices. Because public service delivery in Zambia is pathetic, and we can only change that if more people were able to have power to assess leaders and push for change.
Now, we are leaving some people behind, and this is contrary to the SDG's motto of not leaving anyone behind. Zambia, as you may be aware, has 73 tribes, and the official language is English, and about 8 of the tribes are the major ones, but then there are smaller tribes that don't get to be heard and don't seem to be participating in public affairs. It would be helpful if even the minorities would be helped. Even those Zambians who don't understand, read or write in English could be helped. And this can only be done if the government and other stakeholders supported the indigenous communities to use the practices that they have been using for a long time and to help them develop those practices to the needs, the demands of modern society, the constitution and information technology. We have examples of other nations that have rapidly developed using their own indigenous knowledge and indigenous philosophies. We have to decolonize our minds. If we have to develop the same way that, for example, the Far Eastern economic giants have developed, of course, we are aware that China had 5,000 years of civilization, and it has systems that it has developed over those years that it can rely on, and the system has been recorded. We have challenges in Zambia because most of our system have not been written down. But now we have the chance because we have the tools. We can now record our indigenous knowledge and traditions. So we should be able to tap into our roots. We have for a long time been copycats, but we can see that being copycats and dustbins of ideas that don't belong to us as a nation always land us into problems.